conversation.
210.
The Judiciary Committee and Democratic candidate for president, Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota.
Really nice.
Thank you. You guys just going to cough through my whole interview?
No.
Test me, see how I can
so
handle
obvious.
it. Come on.
So we'll talk about the debate. Obviously, that's really big news. And we can't wait to see what happens on those 2 nights. But first, I want to talk about your 100-day plan. Of course, FDR famously had his first 100 days. And I would say Newt Gingrich put together a contract with America, and of course there was a contract for America, but it was something that like 50% of the Democrats voted for, and it was really pretty remarkable. This is when I first got up there, laying out a 100-day plan kept everybody so disciplined.
Exactly.
You knew what you were going to do before you got there. And those first 100 days were extraordinarily efficient. When we got beyond it, things sort of, Newt sort of wandered off into the fields at times.
Yeah.
But I say all this as a precursor to say, I think everybody should do what you're doing right now and say, this is how I'm going to start my first 100 days. Tell us about it.
Thank you. The idea here, and I've used this in other management jobs I've had, is you've got to have sprints and you have to have marathons. But the sprints at this moment couldn't be more important because you've got a president, as you were just talking about, that's creating chaos all the time. And the idea is that there are so many things we can do right away. Prescription drugs, no competition. You can, as a president, order that less expensive drugs come in from safe countries to create that competition. As a president, you can stop the deals where pharmaceuticals are paying off generics to keep their products off the market. You can sign us back into the International Climate Change Agreement on day one. You don't need Congress to do that. You can bring back the clean power rules that had been negotiated for years that the president just left on the cutting room floor. You can stop the actions to throw the dreamers out and the actions to throw the people that are here on legal temporary status out. And of course you start introducing the big bills. But think about all the things you can do immediately, including stopping sending the mean tweets that will set a different tone. And as you said, what I like about this, I did it when I was chief prosecutor, your friends see it, yes. Your employees see it, yes. But you know who else sees it? Maybe the people who aren't on your side. But that's good too. They can see, well, okay, these are things that we're okay with. These are things that we're going to fight. But you've got a clear direction as a leader.
So let's talk about the people who may not be naturally on your side if you're president of the United States. That, of course, the Republican Party. A little fight, a little skirmish broke out yesterday between Joe Biden, who said, we've got to work with the other side, and others who said, no, you can't work with the other side. If you think back over it, you can take Barack Obama's 8 years in office. You can take Donald Trump's 2.5 years in office. We've gone over a decade without a significant piece of bipartisan legislation. Barack Obama's...
Well, we did pass the TARP bill, which was a response to an emergency, right? But that was over, I think that was over a decade. That was at the end of Bush. That was continued into the beginning of Obama.
End of Bush. And in fact, the last 6 years of Barack Obama's administration, there wasn't a significant piece of legislation passed. How do you move Washington past where it is right now?
Well, there were some bills, I have to say, that got some support with a few Republicans, but not in the way that you are talking about. I think that people are crying out for change. They want to see a different Washington. I'm not a Pollyanna about Mitch McConnell. I've worked with him now for over a decade. But I know that there are Republicans that want to move, say, on immigration reform. They do. They just can't deal with Donald Trump. They know that we need more people working on our factories and in our fields, that we can't continue the way we are. It's an economic imperative that we move and that we get that debt reduction, that we're going to get the deficit reduction from that $158 billion. You can use part of it at the border, part of it to help those 3 countries, so you can stem that crisis. They know that we have to move on things like climate change. They may not quite agree how much, but they know this is happening. You can see it in the insurance rates. They know that we need to move on getting our trade agreement agreements in a better place so we can work with the rest of the world, that we need to bring down health care premiums, do something about pharma. You hear the Republicans talking about antitrust for the first time, and I'm the ranking on that committee. I know that we can actually, as president, in the 100 days, I can order a review of the horizontal and vertical mergers. Yeah. You can actually do things without bills from Congress.
So, but there is middle ground, though, for Republicans and Democrats alike, where they can be. Talking about the contract with America, Democrats hated it. But some of the legislation was so positive that they had to vote for it. They couldn't go home without voting for it. And when I hear people saying, oh, Republicans are going to be against everything, well, you make them an offer they cannot refuse, and you put it on the House floor and go, oh, okay, you're going to vote. You go ahead and vote against this.
Infrastructure. See what happens with that when your people are crying out because they've got a bunch of potholes or they want to get their
bridge
transit
collapses.
station in or bridge. Infrastructure is something else. Mental health that I talked about on your show. So my idea here is I've got the 100 bills that have passed when I've been the lead Dem since I've been in the Senate to show that's part of this, what we've gotten done, and then 100 things we can do in the first 100 days. And I truly believe these are things we can do. And then you'll have your next goals, because when you do this, you got to have 100 days and year-end goals, and you set them out there, and you know they're going to resist on some things, but you figure out the ones you can move on right away and the ones that you stand your ground on to get done.
Mike.
Before you get to your first 100 days, you're president-elect of the United States of America. You've got 40% of the electorate of the people of this country sitting on one side of the ballpark, 40% sitting on the other side of the ballpark. What do you do? What do you say? Where do you go to try and heal this country?
We need to bring the heart back into American politics. And I think a lot of how you do that, Mike, is by how you run a campaign. It's how you talk in a campaign, how you bring people in. And I'm mostly talking about a general election here. And that means you say, look, we have a lot more in common as America than this Donald Trump's world, where he wakes up every morning and goes after immigrants, or as you were talking about earlier on a show, is sending us rashly back out into the Middle East when we had an agreement, the nuclear agreement, that may not have been perfect, but would have completely prevented this from happening to begin with. People are attuned to politics right now. They can figure this out. So what you do is you reach out to those people and you set the tone from the day you win. You set the tone from that night about how you're going to have a different America where you're going to respect people. You may not always agree with them. You're going to stand your ground. But when you can find common ground, you pursue that.
Not
Sam
to be
Stein.
the resident cynic at the table here.
Well, it's a cynical time.
But
Please do.
I'm looking through your legislation, the items you want to do in your 100 days, and I just don't see a path to getting any of it done. Infrastructure.
Well, I would say,
hold on.
That's very cynical.
Infrastructure. We just talked about infrastructure. There's been bipartisan consensus for infrastructure for a decade now. Mitch McConnell doesn't want it. Gun violence legislation.
Well,
after
Okay, could I- are you
hold on,
gonna let me-
let me go through the
stop
floor.
one at a time.
Wait, hold on.
You gotta go one at a time.
I had this all wound up.
You can make, I'm sorry, been there, done that, not as much as the senator.
Yeah.
You can put together an infrastructure deal that even Mitch McConnell can't say no to.
And by the way, a big infrastructure deal, Sam, this you're right on if you look at that carefully.
Sure.
There's some things you can do immediately on safety and things. Big infrastructure deal is going to probably be year-end, right? Because you need to make changes to the tax bill. Say you take that corporate rate down from where they brought it at 21%, you go up to 25%, you get $400 billion. You've got that infrastructure financing package, which is bipartisan, Warner Blunt, right?
Right.
That's $300 billion of it. Changes to the international tax code. You do what he should have been doing in the first place. When he did that big tax deal, you should combine it with infrastructure, and you do that at the end of the year. But the gun violence, there are things you can order immediately, right away.
Sure, but you're
the way that
asking
dark
for
money is.
You want to introduce gun violence legislation that would do universal background checks. When Obama had a Democratic-run Senate in post-Newtown, they fell short of the 60 vote threshold.
Well, Sam, you're missing one important ingredient. The House already passed it.
I understand.
You have a different politics. The kids out there have demanded it. They changed the House of Representatives.
You still have a 60 vote threshold. This is my question.
Yeah.
You still have to hit a 60 vote threshold. If you're president and Mitch McConnell's now the Senate Minority Leader, but obviously you don't have 60 Democratic senators, and he stands in the way of things like gun violence legislation, election security funding legislation, which he's currently standing in the way of right now, comprehensive immigration reform, which he has historically stood in the way of. Would you endorse changing the rules of the Senate so that you eliminate or lower the threshold for the filibuster?
Well, first of all, remember, if he wins the Senate, which I don't want to have happen, that's why I want to lead the ticket, because I can win in states, red states, as I've shown in my elections, and help bring my ticket with me. I've done that in every single election I've ever run. So if he is not running the Senate, which is where this plays into key, and only then you do have the leverage to push that to be changed if he doesn't play along. He's either...
Would you use that leverage?
I can't order it myself.
You could
would have
endorse
to
it.
have the Senate.
You could endorse it.
You can push the Senate to do it if he's not playing around. I consider it leverage. But you are way off what this is. This
Way
is
off,
things.
Sam. Way off.
So let me
not
just
off.
explain. No, these are things that you can do in the first 100 days on your own that a president can order. You can nominate a bunch of good judges on day one.
You cannot,
That's something
you
that
cannot pass the DREAM Act by fiat. This is under your
wait a minute.
legislation.
You're not
you cannot do gun violence legislation like in Vastbox.
Okay, I just asked that you read the whole thing, and then we'll have an online discussion. What do I say about the... I don't say that you can pass the DREAM Act. I say we can stop the assault on the Dreamers with those court cases that the Trump administration is pursuing. You can immediately stop that. With one phone call, you can stop that. And the other things to pass a DREAM Act, what do I say? Introduce comprehensive legislation in the first 100 days. I predict this is the year you get it done. You want some money at the border for personnel? You want to help to make sure those three countries are more functional? You got to pass comprehensive immigration reform, because no, Mexico's not paying for that, to try to get that done. So it is a combination of things you introduce and things you can do by executive order.
All right, Katty
Yes,
Kay has a
Sam.
question.
I've been
Katty.
corrected.
Yeah,
Okay,
you have been.
Senator,
I'm getting ready for the debates.
Your first 100 days, clearly America's credibility around the world is suffering under President Trump. You've talked about rejoining the Paris Climate Accords. What else specifically would you do to reassure allies that America was the partner they once had?
Well, the first, of course, would be very quickly to go visit our allies, to go and meet with everyone from, we've had a president that somehow pissed off the entire country of Canada. That isn't easy to do. Go to Canada, go visit with the European leaders, start those negotiations to get back into the Iranian agreement, which left our allies holding the bag and gave way too much pressure and leverage to China and Russia. And then
so you'd rejoin the JCPOA as it is?
Right. You could renegotiate. Things have changed. Different things happen. You might want to have different provisions. But the point is, you have to show that you are serious about getting back into that agreement immediately. And I don't know what he's going to do now, except go to Congress and brief us so we can figure out what havoc he's wrought here. And then we also would have to get involved with an authorization of military force if, in fact, he is serious about pursuing that. The other things I would do is visit our combat troops. As you know, that took a while for him. I think that's very important to show the military that you have a leader that's going to have their backs and stand with them. Modernize our military in terms of being ready to take on, which we are repeatedly told is the biggest threat on our own soil, which is a cybersecurity attack to our power grid, to various parts of our economy. And while there have been some efforts made under this administration, we are nowhere where we need to be when it comes to updating our military, and then, of course, protecting our election equipment and our very democracy.
So you said you were preparing for the debates, and there's such a large field, obviously, in 2 different nights. What's your strategy for standing out?
Well, I'm going to come on this show every morning and have Sam ask questions while Joe coughs.
Exactly.
That is sort of my plan.
Best off, Sam.
I think it is, you look at past debates, you watch past debates, you don't watch the one-on-ones, because that's not what this is, right?
Yeah.
This is a whole bunch of people there, all of whom have something to say. And then you decide the areas that you want to focus on and what the points that you want to make are. And I think it's a great opportunity. I'm glad I'm on night 1. That'll be important. And, we're ready to go.
Senator, the ability of a Democratic candidate to win obviously depends on influencing those who can be influenced. You're from Minnesota, a state that Donald Trump almost won. that he's focusing on again. So you come across a lot of people who are still Trump supporters. What do you say to them? What is your message to them moving forward to say, though I disagree with Donald Trump, I understand your frustration, but let's try something a little differently?
Well, exactly. They had decided, and they'll be tuning into the debate, they decided years ago here that they were going to vote for Donald Trump because they wanted something different. A lot of them felt left out by the economy. I know people that felt that way in my own state that told me they were voting for me, and they did 2 years later, and they were voting for him. So my message to them is, what's been happening to you since this guy's gotten in office? Has that tax bill really helped you that much? No. Most of it went to help the wealthiest. What's happened to you with prescription drugs? They keep going up. Here's one that you might not expect. What's happened to you with robocalls? Well, I can tell you this, and this is why my plan covers the minute and the big.
Yeah, okay.
Robocalls went up before Donald Trump got in office. 1 month they were $2 billion a month in America, and now they're $5 billion, okay? These are the kinds of things we're dealing with. You go through practical things, the costs of things for them. What has he really done when it comes to even President Obama's plan to make two-year community college free, or to allow people to refinance their loans that they've had for a long time? He's done nothing. These are bread and butter issues that allowed our candidates to win in this last election 2 years ago. And if you don't believe me, for your words for you, former Governor Scott Walker, right?
There you go.
In states that we thought were unwinnable before in the Midwest, where Donald Trump had won, people were able to say, you know what, these are practical things. You shouldn't get kicked off your insurance for pre-existing conditions. That's exactly what this guy is trying to do to you now. We've got the court cases to show it. You want chaos all the time and troops suddenly going to the Mideast when we had an agreement that would have stopped that? Fine. Do you want to vote for that guy? No. You don't want your neighbors going to war again over that when we had an agreement that would have protected them. You can go down the line and make a case, not just to the Democratic base, but to everyone. And that's why those debates will give me the opportunity to talk to our Democrats, which is, of course, key. You win the primary, but to make the case of how you beat Donald Trump in a general election.
Senator Amy Klobuchar, thank you very much.
Hey.
Strong finish. Despite Sam.
Come on set with us in Miami. We're going to be there. We'd love to talk to you after
That'll be great.
And we promise you.
Only if Sam's on there.
I will not be there. Don't worry.
Sam will not be there.
No, that's
wasn't
great.
that bad.
It's all good.
I do believe there could be bipartisan consensus for robocall legislation. Those are so annoying.
See, look at that.
Oh,
me
we
over.
need some progress.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon. We
All
look
right.
forward to it.
Thanks,
Still
all.
ahead on Morning Joe, President Trump isn't expected to arrive in Orlando until later tonight, but supporters are already lining up for his 2020 campaign kickoff rally. NBC's Peter Alexander joins us live from Orlando. Plus, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he doesn't know why Jon Stewart is bent out of shape over the 9/11 Victims Fund. Now the former Daily Show host is hitting back. You're watching Morning Joe. We are back in just a moment.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.